Welcome to our webinar on post-show communication tips. My name is Karen Gibbs. I'm with By Hand Consulting, and we work closely with Emerald Expositions, the management company of the New York Now show, to provide educational and coaching information to help exhibitors of Artisan Resource be successful. So this is one of our series in webinars on best practices in marketing global handmade products. And today we're going to talk about communication tips after the show. So as we know from reading the New York Now show reports, an increasing number, I think it's up to about 2/3 of the buyers attending the New York Now show are actually placing all or a portion of their orders after they get back from the trade show. So they're really using the New York Now show as an opportunity to meet with current vendors, to see new products from current vendors, as well as to identify new vendors. And they're collecting information about those products and new companies and returning back to their stores or their offices where they actually do their calculations and sit down to select products and place orders. So what this means for all of you as exhibitors of Artisan Resource is that your communication after the show is really critical to converting the contacts that you made at the show into active customers. So during this webinar, we're going to touch on 3 of our recommendations of best practices to really convert those contacts to the show. So often we get questions like, I followed up with the customers that I met at the show. I sent them an email, but I never heard back from them. What should I do? So these tips are really our recommendations based on our discussions with both buyers as well as former exhibitors of Artisan Resource as to how can you be successful to really cultivate and nurture those contacts into active customers. So we have 3 steps, 3 suggestions that we make. The first is to really update and cultivate your customer list with the new information that you've received from the show. The second is to send personalized emails, and we'll talk in a minute what that means. And then the third is to create a communication plan, either regular emails, sometimes referred to as email newsletters. So create a communication plan so you stay top of mind with all those buyer contacts that you've made. So let's dive into this and look in a little more detail by updating your customer list. So hopefully all of you have a list where you are keeping a master list where you're keeping the contacts of all of your customers. And hopefully you have qualified this list by the type of customer. So perhaps you have some customers that you service in your own country, and then you also have export customers. Maybe you have wholesale customers and retail customers, so different ways to do it. But your customer list is one of the key assets of your business. So we really encourage people to treat it like a key asset, right? So to really cultivate it, to nurture it, to care for it, to make sure it has good quality information, to make sure you're referring to it on a regular basis. So it should include all of your customers. So by whatever category you want to, either that's export, wholesale, retail, etc. But it should have all of your customers. So by all, I mean your past customers, your current customers, as well as the future. So the future customers would be those buyer contacts that you made at the New York Now show. You can really decide what information you would like to keep about those companies and those customers. Our recommendation is that you are tracking the company, the buyer name, possibly their title, their email, which is going to be probably your number one way to reach out to them, to cultivate them. That you also record their website and their address or location. So either their full mailing address or at the very least the location, so the city, state, or most definitely the country that they're in, their phone number, and then any notes. And so perhaps the notes could be where you met them first. Another notes could be what they're interested in, or a combination of both. In terms of the format for these customer lists, our recommendation is that people use either Excel or Google Sheets. Google Sheets is what we use in our own business at By Hand, as well as coach most of our clients in using. Some people do prefer to use a more sophisticated CRM tool, a customer relationship management tool. Sorry, I got that acronym wrong in this slide here. Like a Salesforce, a Zoho, and Sitely. So those are some of the ones that we've heard of. Generally speaking, we feel like those are very relatively costly and slightly cumbersome tools. So as we've yet to see really where that the cost and the time invested in those has paid off for most of the international artisan brands and enterprises that we've worked with. But for some people, that's really what works best for them. The bottom line is really, get all that information, all those business cards that you collected, all those notes that you made in your notebook as you were hopefully stapling in those business cards into your notebook during the show, record that on your customer list. So you have that master, so you're really cultivating that. A next step that we recommend is that you actually spend a little time researching your new buyer contacts. So go onto their website, look at what kind of products are they carrying, what's their range of retail prices, what kind of events do they host in their store, or what other kinds of trade shows are they doing if they're a wholesale company, right? Learn about their business. Whenever you can refer to some of those things and show that you've educated yourself about your buyer's business, it shows the respect and the true interest that you have in working with them. So read their blogs. Oftentimes the buyers, particularly small retail stores, have a blog where they're talking about what they care about and some of the events at their stores. So stay current with that. Sign up for their email newsletters or their email list to be alerted of new things that they're doing. Follow them on social media, on Instagram in particular, possibly on Facebook. We see more and more artisan brands, retail stores, and wholesale companies using Instagram these days. So follow them on social media so you can keep track of the new products they're bringing to market. And then for that specific buyer name, go on LinkedIn and connect with them. LinkedIn does a great job of referring you, not only keeping you connected to these buyers, but also referring you to other people with similar profiles. So we find it can be a very useful tool for networking and identifying other buyers and staying connected that way. If you're connected on LinkedIn also, you can always follow people as if they might move from one company to another. So a really useful tool. So those are some of the recommendations around that. So the second step is to send personalized emails. I imagine that many of you have already sent emails to buyers even during the show. And I know many of you meet a buyer at the show, and that evening as you go back to where you're staying, you might send them an email right away following up on their interest. That is great. Keep in mind that many of those buyers were spending a day or two, maybe 3 at the show and in New York. So by the time they get back to their office, your email might be really at the bottom of their inbox. So they might not see it again. It might get a little bit lost in there. So what we recommend is that you're sending up to 3 times an email, personalized email, up to 3 times. We do recommend that you send that email about a week after the show, and that's where we see most buyers are placing those orders. So you want to make sure you get your email at the top of their inbox during that time. And then maybe every 1 to 2 weeks after that. Some tips for these emails: address that buyer by their name and refer to the specific things that they were interested in your booth. Send your catalog, maybe a company profile, and definitely a price list with your ordering terms. Make your email visual, so be sure to put a picture of a product or a picture of perhaps your booth at the trade show in the body of the email. Remember, these are highly visual people. They're scanning through their emails very quickly. The best way to remind them of you and what you had to offer is to show a picture of it. Make sure to include all of your contact information in the signature. So they're not just going to hit reply on this email, right? They might want to reach out to you by Skype or WhatsApp. They might want to visit your website as well. So be sure to keep all of that information in the email. And lastly, as you send these personalized emails, be sure to create a new message for each one. So don't just keep re-forwarding the same message, but create a new message. You can refer to the fact that if they're not responding to the first message that you send out, be sure to, as you follow up, say, reference the fact that you realize that, they may be very busy, but you just wanted to, follow up on their interests. So those are our tips. So often we hear people say, I've emailed them multiple times and I never heard back from them. They must not be interested in working with me. Well, that could be true. It could also be, however, that it's just not the right time for them to do business with you. And sure, they could write back and say that, I'm interested in working with you, but I just don't have the budget to do it now, or I don't have a need for your product at this time. They might write back and tell you that, or they might not. And so we're going to assume that they are still interested, but that it's just not the right time in their business to take on a new vendor or to take on a special project with you. So really then we get to the third step in this process, which is how to stay top of mind with these buyers. Right? You want to, at this point, you don't need to send more personalized emails. That can get a little tedious from the buyer side, but it is really important that you continue to remind them of you, of what you offer, of what you're doing to create new products, of what you're doing to invest in new marketing activities, of what you're doing to create jobs for artisans and preserve cultural resources, or preserve techniques, or do capacity building with artisan groups that you're working with. So from this point of view, it is critical that you have regular messages that you're delivering to your buyers. So our recommendation is that you do this through regular emails. We could call them email newsletters, although they're going to be less newsy and more marketing. So we recommend that you're sending them out monthly or possibly quarterly, that you send them out when you have news. So when you have something of interest to talk about to the buyer. So sending the same information over and over again will discourage buyers from opening your email. Sending emails that has new information, new opportunities will be the ones that are going to get them to open it up. So we recommend using some kind of email newsletter program like MailChimp or MyEmma. They're free versions of all this. Some tips for the content is always include photos, and especially photos of products. We believe that photo of the product should be the first thing that the buyer sees. Buyers are buying for products because that's what they can resell and support their business. So you want that to be front and center. Definitely artisan stories, story of the techniques and materials and the people who make it are of great interest to these buyers. So that can be part of your email, but we recommend leading with that product photo. And then also making sure that all of your emails have very clear call to actions. So very clear messages about what you are offering, what you want the buyers to read about, learn about, what you want the buyers to do. So we see that 64% of email recipients actually open an email because of the subject line, and because that subject line has a very clear call to action of what you want them to do. So also keep in mind that people spend about 51 seconds reading the content of an email in general. So we want to make sure that your message is really clear, it's clearly delivered, so that your content is very concise as well. In your content, we recommend that you think of two things in every email. One is you think about some content that could educate or inspire the buyer. So what is something new that you can tell them about what you're doing? first part of the content. Second part of the content is really for the promotion, right? So make sure that you are promoting the sales opportunity that you're offering. So to place an order or to refer to your catalog or to visit your showroom. Right? So that you have both of those, so that you're sharing some information that engages the customer, as at the same time you are making very clear what is the opportunity, how can they order from you. Right? You want to make that extremely clear in this. So here's our new product line. We worked with a certain number of artisan groups in order to create this. Second section of the email. See our new product line in our Spring 19 catalog. Download it here, place your order by contacting us. So very concise. Create a plan, right? So create a plan over the next couple of months about how you are going to stay in touch with buyers, right? So maybe leading up to your next participation in Artisan Resource or your next marketing event. And think about those messages. So have some key messages that you know you want to communicate over the next 3 to 6 months. And here's some ideas of messages that we've seen be successful. So visit a showroom, check out a new collection, download your catalog, hear the story of the artisans you work with, maybe meet one of your artisans. Maybe you're going to do a profile, an artisan profile. Some call outs for delivery. So maybe you know if they can place an order, in this case for fall, maybe it's place your order by September 1st in order to get delivery by November 15th, right? Having those be other call to action. So maybe follow you on social media if you have a new social media campaign, etc. So just very concise messages to engage that customer and share information. So again, these are really critical for after sending those personalized emails to stay top of mind, right? To remind these buyers of what an amazing resource and brand you are for them to carry. A couple other ideas just wanted to share with you. If you have a couple of key buyers that are just a real priority for you, that you think could be sort of one of your top prospects, don't hesitate to send them a small sample, or perhaps swatches of your materials or what you're doing. There is nothing like having a physical product on a buyer's desk to remind them of you and what you have to offer. So, of course, this would be something that you would do at your own cost and expense. But for those buyers that you're really keen to work with, it can be an effective strategy. And lastly, as you go through with your email newsletters, remember to update your own social media, so your Instagram account, Facebook, or LinkedIn, with the same messages that you're using in your newsletters. So that consistency across your outlets, your communication channels, is really key to just reaching your audience with those concise, sales-oriented messages. So those are the 3 tips that we have to offer. So update your customer list, send out those personalized emails, send them up to 3 times, and create an email communication plan for the next 3 to 6 months. So I hope this was helpful to you. We do have a handout that is associated with this webinar recording. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Send me an email at karen@byhandconsulting.com and sign up for our emails at our website, www.byhandconsulting.com. We send out regular email newsletters with opportunities for global artisan brands. So thank you for joining us, and wish you much success in communicating with those buyer contacts and converting them into active customers.